if you have any questions, I'd love to answer them. Or if you have questions for actors, now that they're not busy doing other things, you can also ask them as well.
Can we do another round of applause for our actors?
Please, yes.
Toughest lines I ever.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I'm just being tech and
Alright, we all like, why this story?
So, it's a little bit two thing, kind of looking at it. Initially, there's a game that I've enjoyed for a while that I was kind of inspired by. It's kind of the same idea of a narrator telling a story and the character kind of fighting back. But then it kind of, as it evolved, became more into this idea of the narrator and the character both kind of being trapped in this loop that they've created, and kind of those parallels, and I just kind of fell in love with the idea, and it just kind of came from there. Not quite as personal as Allison's. No, not really much from my personal life necessarily went into it in that way, but it's just kind of an idea I fell in love with and just kind of evolved from there.
Fantastic job.
Thank you.
As a lifelong game master, many's the time that I've tried to foresee what my players might come up with,
And you just
not a chance at
no,
all.
you just don't know
No.
what they're going to do. You can't ever plan for what they're going to do.
But it's always the better story because the players are involved.
Yeah, absolutely. Do any actors have questions?
Hi, Peter.
That wasn't a question. It wasn't a question.
No.
Say that every question.
Hi, Peter.
Yes.
Peter Pie?
So I'll ask you a question that I asked Allison.
Sure.
What was one of the more challenging things about writing, this writing experience?
Maybe being in the time limit.
Yeah, the hardest
10 to 20
part.
minutes?
No, don't look at your watches. You don't know how long it was. Yeah, it's kind of a point where, as I was writing it, I knew it was gonna be on the longer side. And I always told Kendra, I'm like, it's gonna be towards the 30-minute end of that spectrum, maybe a little longer. And it wasn't until Sunday when we did it, and I looked at the watch and realized it was an hour. I said, oh, okay. Well, here we go. Like, it's kind of those things. It just kind of took a mind of its own, and when you're writing something, you have no way of truly planning for how long it's going to be. So you can be in your head like, okay, we did a read-through. It took 20 minutes. Great. That doesn't translate to the stage when you have to plan for moments of silence. You know, a whole start of the scene where he's doing all this stuff for 5-10 minutes and there's no dialogue at all. That's what I told you to do. Don't be sorry. You did what I asked you to do.
Yeah.
I will say, the easiest part of this play was this one. Because I basically just said, okay, let's try this scene, and he just did it. And I'm like, okay, well, cool. I don't have, he's like, is that good? I'm like, yeah. He just, every time he did it, he found other ways to create this character to life. And so, he was the easy part. Because all of them were.
Hear that, Sam?
I can't believe
And
this.
notes on your same line, you say 5 scenes in a row.
My
No,
God.
I have notes.
You do? Can you imagine? I can't say that in the right
After the
sound.
show. But yeah, probably the hardest part is accounting for the things you can't account for when you're writing. To like, from writing to putting it on, which is definitely something I'm supposed to do in a playwriting class and not a directing class, but that's not important, and Jackie yelled at me already, so. Kendra didn't stop me, so I didn't get stopped, so.
I noticed a distinct change during the saved messages. And that's when the emotions really started to ramp up.
Yes.
Very good.
His big job in the show, especially leading up to that point, is to make you all forget that this doesn't just have to be happy, and to kind of lull you in, to be like, hey, remember, he's sad. He's sad.
I'm sad.
Yeah.
Hi, Dad.
They were the first ones I cast. definitely not, because we've joked for a while that they are the same person, just a few years apart.
Yeah.
They look nothing like.
Well, and nothing, when you're around them, you realize that their mannerisms, their sense of humor, their.
I can't see what face he's making. I'm just
But
assuming
everyone
that
just-
Same one.
Okay, good. Back at 7.
Yeah, they're
Yeah,
weird.
I know.
The world didn't need two of me. This is art.
Huh?
And this is something Allison can answer too. What was the most challenging part for you, or what did you maybe become more aware of about your script once you had actors on your feet acting it out? Sort of,
I
yeah.
don't know what the most
Worded in a
difficult part for you to
different
write
way.
was.
What was the most difficult part for me to write, Landon, while I think of my answer?
It was that final call.
Yeah.
Those monologues really got you.
It becomes a game where you have to, like, you can write it and know how you're going to say it. And something we worked on in class, especially with that one, because with this one, I kind of have to write his emotions for most of it because he doesn't speak. But you kind of have to allow your actors to kind of take the reins sometimes with emotion and how they're going to deliver a line. Some of the physical things that aren't crucial to the story, like how are they going to respond to things. You kind of have to, as you're writing, allow yourself to step back and be like, okay, I know how this looks in my head, but ultimately I should allow my actors to play with it. I should give them the freedom to kind of play with it. Because when we do plays, I've done plays, I've been here for 5 years. And some plays, you can tell, it's written for you on the page, this is what we want you to do. This is the emotion you should have right now. And it's kind of limiting as an actor. It's like, okay, well, I don't know if I feel like I should be doing that right now. But then you have other plays that don't tell you how you're supposed to respond to things, and you as the actor are able to build yourself up and be able to learn from it. So it's a big game of like, okay, how do I write this to go where I want it to go while still allowing my actors to be able to figure it out for themselves and figure out the best way to portray this character that maybe I didn't think of. I'm trying to think of a specific example. I think maybe it was these two, not this one, those two, and their phone call, the last phone call there, where it wasn't until they were actually reading through it that I was able to feel the emotion that it had. And when we were actually recording it, they recorded it twice, and the first time, it was not it. I'm like, that wasn't quite it. And then the second time, nailed it. Like, once they had a second to sit there and think about it, they were able to put their emotions into it, and it's kind of like they kind of meshed together. And they're lucky because most of the time we don't have the ability to have the playwright with us when we're doing a play to know what the intention was, so we get to figure it out ourselves. And kind of have to be here, be like, yeah, kind of this, if they're not sure. But for the most part, and I think with Allison watching her do it, it's kind of the same way, where the actors are able to like figure out what their characters are, figure out who they are as people, and be able to kind of create that and bring it to life. So it's the challenging part, but in a way that's good. Because yes, it's challenging, because as a writer, you're just gonna be like, yes, this is what I want it to be. And you just have to have that ability to kind of step back and be like, okay, let's let them kind of build it up and let it be something. So there's my long-winded explanation about my long play.
I imagine it's kind of the way it was at the Globe. They had the bard there to tell them, you know, this is what I like to see. And so all of you get to feel the same kind of thing where the playwright's there and says, this is kind of what I see in this scene. And then you're like, I can interpret that.
Yep.
And I can put that out to the audience. Outstanding job, all of you.
I will brag on Peter that he let us, as actors, actually play.
Oh yeah.
With a lot of the gags.
We could have had like 3 practices, but we didn't, because if we had 3 practices, and okay, you do this and you do this and you do this. No, they trust me. They played. They played.
Our goal is to
Maybe
try and
too
make
much
people laugh.
sometimes.
You never said no.
This one played during the first read through.
He did.
The first read through, he was out of his seat running around doing the stuff. I didn't ask him to.
It was.
He could have just sat there and done nothing for the whole practice, and he would have been fine because he didn't have lines up until the end.
The reason why I didn't want to just sit there and do nothing for 40 minutes.
Stop making it logical.
It's also because you guys are a very tight-knit group and worked with each other, you already know how each other acts.
Absolutely helps. It helps he's my roommate, and so he was there as I wrote it most of the time. And he was actually my rubber duck that I went squeak squeak, and he said, yeah, that sounds good. Or, no, that doesn't sound good, let's fix that. So it kind of helped, he kind of already was familiar with it, but...
I do have to say it was really interesting because Kyle and I have always been like brother and sister for a few years now, and so whenever we were cast as brother and sister, like Peter's like, just do the scene, and we're like, what blocking? And he's like, just do the scene. And so that blocking that we did has
This is where you
changed every
enter,
single time.
this is where you exit.
Yeah.
Okay, figure it out.
We're like, yeah, it'll work out. It's king somewhere.
I'm putting you in a room together.
Figure it out.
And that's the
The
fun
fact is
part.
you trusted us to do that.
Yeah, it was
Yes.
so much fun.
You
I will
trusted us
say,
as
by the
actors
way,
to do that.
my character Andy was named before Peter's character Andy.
Oh, yeah, that's,
And
yeah.
it's
But
unfortunate that they were
he
both
wasn't
named.
originally cast as Andy.
I know.
I casted him first. I will win this chicken versus egg argument.
It's the Andrew cinematic universe.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's very
I will,
ACU.
I will say, for those of you who are not familiar with playwriting process, usually the playwright will have at least 2 to 3 just where you sit down and read through the script, do rewrites in between before they ever get to this point. And I think it was pretty, I was so excited that we actually had writers who were ready to go long before the class was over, so they could do as much with it as they wanted to with the actors.
Yeah, I think there was only one scene I overhauled after our read through. That was the dragon scene.
Right, yeah.
That
I
one
was gonna say,
was
that's
that
right.
one wasn't right the first time. It was much shorter, and I was like, no. That's where our length came from because it was like this is nothing. So,
I love the bear ears, that was awesome.
That was cute, yes. It was just enough, it was just that perfect touch. But in general, just, again, for those who don't know, for a show to go to Broadway, it usually spends probably at least 2 years in writing alone, and usually goes through 3 different locations of production before it even comes to Broadway. So like, for instance, Hamilton, they started working on it in a little before 2008, and it made it to Broadway in 2015. So, playwriting ain't easy.
I wrote mine in like, I don't know, it was maybe 3 weeks, but I wrote most of it in a night. So
Yeah.
just because it's one of those things I knew once I started, I'm
It
done.
just kinda goes.
Yeah.
I do want to thank our playwrights for giving us this opportunity to bring your creations to life because it is terrifying being somebody that's had a play performed before that you wrote. It is terrifying to hand over those reins. So thank you for trusting us, for allowing us into your universe. Is what I would say.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Allison, come up here. You can bring your bear.
Don't keep going, you're taking it up.
Come up here.
Any other questions from anyone?
I'd like to thank Peter for letting me do the fight choreography.
Oh, yes. He did the fight choreo.
Yeah.
That was not me. I said, this is roughly what I want. He's like, okay, well, I'm like, no. You know what you're doing. I don't know what I'm doing. We just did a show combo. I did no fighting in it. I stood there and yelled at people in character. That was all him.
But thank you. Any chance that I get to work with people and create choreography like that in any form is good experience for me. As someone who really enjoys doing it, I was really happy to get the opportunity. So I appreciate it. Thanks.
Awesome.
Trying to come up with a fight scene with invisible dragon that is coming from the audience is very, very interesting.
Listen, Jackie was already mad at me. I wasn't about to be like, I need a dragon. Actually, for my minimal playwriting final, just dragon. I think it was this one. The first time she saw the set was, this is minimal. I'm like, yeah, there's no backdrop.
I was like, I thought this was supposed to be minimal. He's like, we need like the entire crew to reset it. And then you're gonna be crew that goes on that resets everything at the same time. And I'm like, this is minimal. Okay.
Yes.
And then everybody looked at mine and they're like, thank you, Alex.
Minimal with an asterisk.
Yeah,
Could have been worse, is what I like to think it was.
yes,
But at which point you made the stagehands characters in the
yes,
story.
and it worked really well.
Yeah.
Yeah, they had full reign of what they were doing there. I'm like, you need to do this thing. Anything you do otherwise, have fun. If you're having fun, you're doing it right.
Yeah.
I feel like I recognize a little bit of She Kills Monsters in that dragon fight.
There was a little bit of
A little bit, yeah.
Thank you for not throwing a sword at me, Landon.
I thought about it.
She was worried. She's like, am I going to be safe sitting here? I'm like, about safe as they was. Probably. I think it helped that Cynthia was right there.
Yeah.
She wasn't sitting there. I don't know. You might have been firing an
It
arrow
was a
right
clean
there.
shot.
I will say, and it just so happens that it's going to be Peter and Allison again in the directing class next semester. So probably during finals week of spring, we will have a director's showcase, and they will be directing something of their own choice, probably a 20 to 30 minute scene or one act. So
I'll do 5 minutes to make up for this one.
Yeah.
I've used up all my time now.
Yeah, because that won't be, whereas with playwriting, we spend a lot of time working on this play. They'll have other projects throughout the semester, so it will probably be a little bit, need to be a little bit shorter in the end, so, yeah, so put that on your calendar.
into it. We'll see it.
You're funny.
Aren't you gonna be in that class too?
No.
You're not gonna
She's gonna be a special guest star.
In our play.
Oh my god, in the play.
Oh my gosh, I think I gotta go, guys.
We know where you live.
I live with
Look
you.
at my wrist.
Wait, is that Taryn? Oh my gosh, it's Taryn! It's Taryn.
In our defense, once those stage lights are on, we can't see anybody.
Yeah. Well, thanks again
Awesome.
to our playwrights, and, yeah. You should all probably scuttle out of here so that they can.
Yeah, my actors gotta stay in here to anything.
Well, the actors, yeah, but.